What's happening, Battlers? Trainer Mamco here, and real quick before we get started, I'd like to announce that I'm heading out later this month to Montreal for Pokémon GO Safari Zone, and that's going to be absolutely insane. I've never been to Safari Zone, and I'm glad that it's not too far from Michigan, about 9 hours, but that's still, it's kind of far, but not that bad. And I'm also going to be participating in Silph League Montreal Safari Cup on that Saturday night, hosted by Pogo King and JFarmakis. Now this month, we're supposed to be taking a break from Silph Arena stuff because Season 2 starts next month in October, and I figured I would take this time to, take a break, just kind of relax for a bit, chill, maybe just grind some Stardust in preparation for Season 2 of Silph Arena. But I got caught up in analyzing the Safari Cup meta, and I found it really exciting. So I figured I'd just go ahead and make a team, and because I'm going to Safari Zone, I figured I might as well just go ahead and participate in that tournament as well. So I'm going to go ahead and actually talk about the meta, do a little bit of a meta analysis for the Safari Cup. Let's go ahead and get into that. Here are the details for the Montreal Safari Cup. It'll be hosted by Pogo King, JFarmakis, and the Silph League Montreal group on Saturday, September 21st at 8:30 p.m. And it's a very interesting meta, very interesting set of rules as well. You have 8 types. You have water, ground, rock, normal, bug, grass, poison, and flying. 8 types. Very diverse meta, and a very interesting set of rules. You can have a maximum of two of each featured type per team. That means you can't have more than 2 water types, you can't have more than 2 grass types, but you can have more than 2 steel types, because steel type isn't a featured thing. So you can have a Skarmory, Steelix, and Bronzong on the same team. And you have a maximum of 2 choices. These are the limited Pokemon for the Montreal Safari Cup. You have Azumarill, Swampert, Vigoroth, Venusaur, Meganium, Tropius, Forretress, Trash Cloak Wormadam, Skarmory, Altaria, Bastiodon, and Probopass. Also forgot to mention that it should be sort of an unspoken rule or law at this point, but there are no duplicates allowed in this tournament. So you can't have 2 Skarmory, you can't have 2 Altaria, you can't have 2 Legacy Dragonite, anything like that. So let's go ahead and get into the meta-analysis. Before we get started on this meta-analysis, I'd like to give out a huge thanks to SpeedofDark on Reddit and PvPoké for helping me create this meta-analysis visual. I'm going to go ahead and link SpeedofDark's meta-analysis in the description because it's very, very well done, very simplified. I couldn't have made my visual without that. So I'm going to go ahead and check out the link if you haven't already, and if you're prepping for the Safari Cup, go check that out. And let's go ahead and get started. So the Safari Cup meta is mostly this group that you see right here. On the bottom left, you have your fighters and anti-tanks, you have your tanks, you have your flyers, and then you have your grass types, and also you have Azumarill. Azumarill is a pretty staple Pokemon in Great League, and it's just going to perform pretty well here in general, but so far I haven't seen that many people running it on their teams. And Azumarill, I think, is just a pretty solid Pokemon overall, but so it pretty much stands in its own league here. But let's go ahead and get into the first of the Safari Cup group, the fighters and the anti-tanks. So the anti-tanks and the fighters perform the same duty in the Safari Cup. They both take out the tanks. Let's go over the fighters first. First you have Poliwrath with Power Up Punch, Vigoroth with counter Body Slam, and Toxicroak with counter Mud Bomb and Sludge Bomb. First let's go over Poliwrath with Power Up Punch. Very solid Pokemon in this cup. I feel like in some situations, and based on your team comp, Mudshot, which is Legacy on Poliwrath, and Bubble are kind of interchangeable, but Bubble does a lot more damage overall, coupled with Power Up Punch, and then Mudshot can get off more charge moves. So to me, that's just preference. I like Bubble. Bubble does a lot of damage, like I said, coupled with Power Up Punch. But with Mudshot, shield pressure is up there, man. So definitely very solid pick for a Pokemon in the Safari Cup. And then Vigoroth, you have counter and Body Slam. Now Vigoroth can pretty much just farm down the tanks with just counter alone, and then just let loose Body Slams on whatever else comes in. But if you're using Vigoroth, make sure you watch out for the opposing fighters, as it's a normal type and weak to fighting. Next you have Toxicroak with counter, Mud Bomb, and Sludge Bomb. Toxicroak is very, very good with shield pressure. I've lost to it quite a few times because I'm using 2 grass types on my team, and just because a Sludge Bomb, it shield pressure's up there if Toxicroak has a lot of energy, then the shield pressure is insane with that. So Toxicroak is a very solid pick in my opinion. Just make sure you watch out for the flyers and any confusion users. And then let's go over the anti-tanks next, Whiscash and Swampert. Both Whiscash and Swampert have Mudshot, which means they can build up a lot of energy very quickly. And then Whiscash does have shield pressure with Mud Bomb. And then Blizzard can deal super effective damage against the grass types and also against Altaria and Dragonite. And then also Golbat, which is a very solid flyer as well. And then Swampert, Swampert can just easily deal a lot of damage with Hydro Cannon alone, but as coverage, I think you might want Sludge Wave because you're going to probably be dealing with the grass types with Swampert, and then also Tropius. Tropius can take out Swampert as well, but Sludge Wave is super effective, so it gives a lot of coverage against it. And then also against Azumarill, Sludge Wave performs very well. So I think probably on Swampert you might want Mudshot, Hydro Cannon, and Sludge Wave. Let's go on to the tanks. The main big three tanks in this cup are Steelix, Probopass, and Bastiodon, and they actually serve two roles. The first role is that they take out the flyers, but then the second role is that they take out the charmers, so definitely try to get one of these on your team. In my opinion, I think Probopass is the best because of its versatility and because of Spark, Thunderbolt, and Rock Slide. Steelix is also a solid choice with Crunch because of its neutral damage and also how tanky it is, but Bastiodon, I feel like it's only good as a closer, a third shield, or what it's meant to do, which is to take out the flyers or defend you against the charmers. Other than that, it's very slow, and it's just kind of, I feel like Probopass is a better pick in general. So definitely try to get one of these on your team to defend you against the flyers and the charmers, but let's go ahead and get into the flyers. So first off, for the Lords of the Flyers, you have Altaria and Skarmory, both stable grade lead Pokemon. And I've seen more people opting for Altaria over Skarmory because of those resistances. Altaria takes not very effective damage from water and fighting, which Skarmory takes neutral damage from. So I honestly prefer Altaria as well, but Skarmory can also perform pretty well in this cup. So let's go on to the other flyers. You have Charizard with either Air Slash or Fire Spin, and then Blast Burn and Dragon Claw. Next, you have Dragonite with Dragon Breath, Dragon Claw, and Outrage. So it's Legacy Dragonite. And I have seen it a lot more in the practice teams I've been facing off against. And it's kind of like a faster Altaria, but it's more squishy. So that's the one drawback that I see from Dragonite. But it's very solid. It's a very solid pick. And if you have it, I consider running it. It's very good. And then Golbat with Wing Attack, and Poison Fang or Return, which you can get from the Team Rocket Purified Pokemon, and then Shadow Ball. Shadow Ball does a lot of damage, and Golbat is very, very fast with Wing Attack, so Shadow Ball can do a lot of damage to most of everything in this cup, so it's a very solid pick as well. Let's go on to the grass types. For the grass users, you have Tropius and Venusaur with Frenzy Plant and Victreebel with Razor Leaf. But if you don't have Venusaur with Frenzy Plant, you can use Ivysaur with Vine Whip, Grass Knot, and Sludge Bomb. But Meganium is also a solid pick with Frenzy Plant, but I feel like Venusaur still does a lot better overall because of its moves. And their main duty is to take out the anti-tanks and the fighters, but they can also deal super effective damage against Azumarill, which is going to be a very good pick in Safari Cup as well. Lastly, we have Azumarill, which is kind of in its own league here in Safari Cup. It can take out the fighters and the anti-tanks. It can also deal solid damage against the flyers as well, and even against its main counters, which are the grass types. You can use Ice Beam, which can deal super effective damage. So Azumarill, very solid pick in this cup. But lastly, let's go ahead and get into the different special picks of the Safari Cup. Here are your more special picks for the Safari Cup. Here you have your water types, your Azumarill counters, your confusers, your ice type users, your generalists, and your charmers. Let's start off with the water types. First you have Blastoise with Hydro Cannon, then Relicanth with Water Gun, Ancient Power, and Aqua Tail, then Lantern with Water Gun, Thunderbolt, and Hydro Pump. Blastoise is very good because of Hydro Cannon, and then also Lantern is very, very tanky. Lantern can take a lot of hits, but you gotta watch out for the grass types and the ground types. And then Relicanth is just pretty quick with its Water Gun, Aqua Tail, and Ancient Power combo. But I prefer Lantern because of the electric typing. Very solid, can take out opposing water types, but you gotta watch out, like I said, for the grass types and ground types. Next you have your confusion users. You have Trash Cloak Wormadam and Venomoth, and they both can take out the fighters and can take out any poison types, but you gotta make sure that you watch out for the flyers and any fire type users. Next are your ice type users. You have Legacy Lapras with Ice Shard, Surf, and Ice Beam or Skull Bash, and then Piloswine with Powder Snow, Avalanche, and Bulldoze. On Lapras, people are opting more for Skull Bash over Ice Beam because of the neutral damage that Skull Bash does, and it does a lot of damage by itself. So, Ice Shard, Ice Beam, Surf is also very solid because it can take out the grass types as well as the flying types. So, Lapras is a very good pick, but if you're using Lapras, I definitely recommend Legacy. Let's go on to the Generalists for the Safari Cup. The two generalists for the Safari Cup are Munchlax and Forretress because they don't have that many counters in this cup. And Munchlax is very solid. I've dealt with it a couple times. There aren't that many things that counter it at all, just fighting types. And Lick, Body Slam, Bulldoze is crazy. I still haven't run the sim, so I don't know how fast Lick can build up to a Body Slam, but as many times as I've faced it, it can get off pretty quickly. Then Forretress with Bug Bite and Rock Tomb or Heavy Slam and Earthquake is also a very solid pick. Let's go ahead and get into the Charmers of the Safari Cup. The two charm users that are eligible for the Safari Cup are Togekiss and Wigglytuff, and they're pretty solid Pokemon in their own rights because not many things in Safari Cup can resist Fairy, and they can also take out the fighting and the dragon types in this cup, Altaria and Dragonite. And not many things, like I said, resist Fairy in this cup, so they can deal solid damage with just Charm. And then make sure if you're using them, you gotta watch out for the poison types and the steel types. Finally, let's get into the pure Azumarill counters, because even though grass types can defeat Azumarill, they take super effective damage from Azumarill's Ice Beam, and these won't. So we have Tentacool with Poison Jab, Hydro Pump, and Sludge Wave or Acid Spray, Ludicolo with Razor Leaf, and then Alolan Muck with Poison Jab and Acid Spray. Those by themselves can defeat Azumarill, and they are pretty solid picks. Building a team for the Safari Cup is pretty difficult with the rules set in place, like only 2 Pokemon of the same type and the limited Pokemon. So actually, let me know if you guys want me to make a video based on how I built my Safari Cup team, and maybe I can get around to making that for you guys. And if you guys like the video, make sure to like and subscribe, and hopefully I'll see some of you at the Safari Cup in Montreal later this month. Make sure to like and subscribe, and I'll see you in the next video.